I am not a Harry Potter fan. I used to be, but haven't been since around the time of the second movie, despite being a fan of the books when I was a bit younger. However, the world has always held a degree of intrigue for me, a level of curiosity that's been begging for a decent video game, with enough separation from the stories in the books to allow for a brand new tale to be told. Hogwarts Legacy, on the surface, seems to be the title that I've been hoping for. Whether it holds up is an entirely different matter. There is naturally a rather large elephant in the room whenever this game, or indeed the franchise, is mentioned. It's no secret that there have been a number of controversial statements and actions from the franchise creator, to the point where many people, myself included, believe that they will cause harm to members of the trans community, either through the actions of others or as a direct result of some of those actions and comments. It's led to an unenviable position for a number of websites, with discussions around covering the game ranging from a blanket ban to coverage without mentioning the controversy. As a relatively small site in the grand scheme of things, our goal is to put out coverage of games when we can, and I would hope that the understanding is there for people to take on board the critical points of the game without taking it as tacit approval of the abhorrent views that are becoming ever more prevalent in our society. We received a copy of the game from Warner Brothers, and as a result, we will be donating the cost of a full retail copy, as well as all monetisation from any content related to this game, to Mermaids, a UK-based charity that provides support to trans youths and their family. Trans rights are human rights. Hogwarts Legacy then is set in the 1800s in the titular school of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Your character is starting school as a 5th year, an unusual circumstance, and it's immediately apparent that something is a little different. You see, you have the ability to see traces of ancient magic, which others don't, and it leads you on a quest with your Professor Fig to uncover the secrets of a plot which threatens wizarding kind on its most fundamental level. Throughout the story, there's a plethora of activities to get stuck into, as you build your character and try and navigate the difficulties of being a student in a new place, as well as the aforementioned big threat. You can choose which house you get sorted into, and you are immediately tasked with getting yourself up to speed in your studies. Conveniently, this lends itself well to being given new spells and abilities, which allow you to explore the grounds and the world further. Once you get given access to a broom, then exploration becomes second nature, with a robust fast travel system existing alongside the open nature of the world around you. Upon my first visit to Hogsmeade within the game, I was reminded of certain things from my childhood that had been lost to the sands of time. Honeydukes and the fizzing whizbees, Ollivander and the selection of wands, all of that sort of stuff. It's a world that has so much to explore and get immersed in that I could genuinely spend hours just wandering around and taking it all in. Of course, the generic statements around immersive aspects on the other RPG bits could be picked out of this review and put into most others without much of a second thought. From a mechanical standpoint, this is nowhere near as deep as the likes of Fallout or the Elder Scrolls series. It's very much an introduction to a number of RPG elements, and I feel that's more than enough for the game, given that its target audience is probably going to be skewed a little younger than those titles. Personally, I really enjoyed this aspect. I'm not a huge fan of massive, sprawling RPGs with open-ended quests and worlds, but I do like the idea of character progression, and a bit of choice as to which way you decide to go. With this being said, Hogwarts Legacy does enough to keep me on the hook, and it doesn't lose me with 50 different side quests happening at any one moment. When it comes to combat, the spellcasting system is going to be your primary focus here. You can throw out some carnivorous plants to assist you, but most of your time will be spent flicking between one of 4 groups of spells to chain together and take down your foes. As you progress, you end up with over 20 different spells to cast, so you need to work out which ones complement each other as you flick between them all. Do you attempt to brute force your way through enemies with pure power, or stop them in their tracks before applying plenty of damage? There are of course the unforgivable curses that you come across later on in the game, but for the most part it's about that balance of damage and ease of use. I did find this a little fiddly at points, when things got chaotic, but I do feel that some of that may be down to my poor choices with the layout and the blast first, ask questions later approach that I tended to take. With all this being said though, the most impressive part of the game is the building in the title. The sheer scale and scope of the Hogwarts Castle itself is truly incredible, with hidden sections, transforming walls and familiar areas all combining to create something that feels genuinely full of wonder. It does admittedly feel a little bit sparse sometimes as you traverse the corridors, but the segments involving classes and bigger groups of students make it feel as lived in as any video game environment that I've ever seen. The castle itself feels like its own unique character, with plenty of stories to tell and advice to give out. From a technical standpoint, the game is pretty solid. There are several modes to enable to play the game the way that you want to, and we will hopefully have a performance analysis up relatively soon, although there's been a patch recently which has thrown some of that up in the air. And even in the performance mode, the vast majority of the game looks really sharp. Loading between areas in the castle is hidden cleverly behind closed doors, although sometimes these do result in a little swirling circle above the door until it fully loads. It's the one technical aspect that I thought would be a non-issue on the PS5, but on the whole, it's not really anything to complain about. Frame rates appear to be mostly consistent, while the abundance of magical effects never cease to be as impressive as they are when things float around, apparate out of nowhere, and generally look like they would do if magic was as prevalent as it is in this mystical world. With everything combining, Hogwarts Legacy is actually a really accomplished game. As someone with very little affinity to the Wizarding World franchise, I found myself really enjoying it for what it is. An RPG that doesn't feel too bloated, doesn't outstay its welcome, and has enough content to satisfy most players, whether they're a Potterhead or not. A game that will likely live in the shadow of controversy for a portion of the audience for a while to come, Hogwarts Legacy should stand alone as an impressive, if not slightly light, RPG set in a well-realised, immersive world with plenty to enjoy. Technically sound and rich with things to do, it's a really enjoyable title that I had a ton of fun with. However, it is impossible to exist in a vacuum in 2023, and while our score reflects the quality of the game alone, there is no denying that it's a game that many will have mixed feelings on. Thank you for joining us, guys. If you've enjoyed this video review, please do drop us a like, leave us a comment down below, but keep it civil, please. And subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time. Alright, take care guys. Bye bye.